The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. It is the Game 2 State of Origin review. New South Wales 38 points to 18, a crushing victory over the Queensland Maroons. How good was it from a New South Wales fan's perspective? Not so much a Queensland Maroons perspective, but as I am a New South Wales fan, how good was it? 34-0 at half time. Could you believe that? I honestly thought it was going to be an 18-14 game. I didn't know that there was going to be a lot of points in it. I thought, like most Origin games, well, I guess different from this season anyway, because the first game in Sydney was a high-scoring affair. This one was a high-scoring affair, but usually in Origin they're very close together, the points, but as I said, this series so far, it has been, I think, like 20 points plus victories for both sides in games 1 and 2. But 34-0 in the first half to New South Wales. It was the greatest half of Origin football since 1983, where Queensland scored 21 points. Could you believe that? 34 points. It was just like an avalanche of tries. Liam Martin kicked it off in the 10th minute. Brian To'o, his first try was in the 17th. So that was a 7-minute difference. 6 minutes later, after Brian To'o's first try, Zach Lomax scores a try. 3 minutes later, Brian To'o scores. 6 minutes later, Latrell scores. Welcome back to Origin, Latrell. And then 6 minutes later, Zach Lomax scores. 34-0 at halftime. How unbelievable was that? And Zach Lomax, he had some pretty hard conversions as well. Most of them were from the sideline, and he nailed them pretty much all. 5 out of 7 for Zach in the conversions. So I think it ended up him scoring 16 or 18 points in the game. So absolutely unbelievable. 18 points in the game, so fantastic for him. And in the second half, Dylan Edwards, who was on debut for New South Wales, scored a try as well, so it was great to see him score a try. Look, a little bit disappointing in the second half, the Blues only scoring that one try, and the Lomax failed with the conversion, so a little bit disappointing not to go on and rack up a bigger score, but hey, Queensland, they turned up in the second half, scoring 3 tries and converting 3 tries as well, so their defence got a lot better in the second half. But that first half, how good was that? Let's talk about that one. The first half, New South Wales, the halves, Jerome Luai and Mitchell Moses combining pretty well. Mitchell, look, he had a great game. Obviously the player of the match and well deserved. To me, it looked like it looked like he was doing his job, and it looked like he had the ball on a string, and it just didn't look like he was doing much, but he was in control. He controlled that first half in the game and in the second half as well, but it just looked like he was doing his job, and it was no fuss, and he just absolutely took it on. Had a great pass to Liam Martin for that opening try. His kick for Brian To'o's try as well. That was fantastic. His long kicking game as well is what New South Wales really missed in that first game, game number 1, as Nico Hines just doesn't have the kicking game like Mitchell Moses. Angus Crichton, how good is he going? Both for the Roosters and New South Wales as well. He kept his form up in this game as well. Certainly looking for a high dollar figure in a contract-wise from other clubs other than the Roosters, but how good was he going? He just did some crucial runs at crucial times, and also made some big tackles as well. Cameron Murray, for his second game in about 6 to 8 weeks, it was coming back from injury. Unbelievable in Origin to play the way that he did in just his second run. Fast play the balls, and I got to tell you, he has been known as probably the fastest play the ball in the NRL. But an unbelievable effort to play Origin, and after only one game back for South Sydney after injury. As I mentioned before, Zach Lomax, his goal kicking was on point, 2 tries in the first half, and we saw one of those tries from a Mitchell Moses kick. So with myself being a Parramatta Eels fan, that is certainly getting me excited, seeing the potential of what is to come in season 2025. And it poses the question for me that I posted to some mates last night during the game. Does this mean Zach Lomax's form this year for not only the Dragons, but he has also been one of the better players for New South Wales in both games this season? Does that mean that he comes to Parramatta as a winger, or does he play in the centre? Let me know what your thoughts are, but I just think the way that he is going at the moment, and I'm sure he would probably agree as well, even though there were whispers at the start of the year that he didn't want to play wing, but how good is he going? But it was the kick from Mitchell Moses across field and just Zach Lomax in the air. At the moment, you'd probably have to say he is the best in the NRL for leaping up in the air. Payne Haas, look, he had come under a little bit of criticism, I guess, about his State of Origin performances so far, but look, last night he really stepped it up. He ran for 130 metres in only 30 minutes in the first half of Origin. That is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Some players don't even run that in a whole game, let alone 30 minutes. So a fantastic effort there from Payne Haas. He only played 54 minutes in game 2. And as I said, 130 metres in those 30 minutes. So he finished the game with 186 run metres off 19 hit-ups. So, look, he certainly made his name in Origin. That was probably his best Origin performance that he has had throughout his career. Queensland, in the first half, look, they suffered an injury with the hammer and his shoulder. I think that ruled him out of the first half, and look, he was struggling in the second half, even with padding and injections at half time. He, unfortunately, he's one of Queensland's strike weapons along with Reece Walsh, but he got injured last night in the first half and just wasn't the player in the second half that Queensland would have wanted. Look, as I said before, Queensland in the second half, they stepped it up a little bit and scored 3 converted tries. Latrell Mitchell is on report for a dangerous tackle. I don't think he will get a suspension from that one, probably a fine. Stephen Crichton, he had a game as well, didn't he? He was involved in everything, took an intercept and nearly got to the try line, but was caught by about 5 or so Maroons. But it was an unbelievable take in that first half. to get the ball and just to run down the field there, but he was involved in a lot of things. He got penalised for a grapple tackle in the second half. A bit of a push in the face, I think, from DCE. I think that could have been a little bit of frustration as well on DCE's part, or he just did not like the tackle at all. The sin binning of Liam Martin and Pat Carrigan. Look, I honestly don't know what that was for. If it was for rubbing on the head or whatever, I don't know. For Pat Carrigan, whether he was one of the men that came into the little bit of a, I guess you could say, melee a little bit. But look, both of those players should have stayed on the field. I don't think they should have been sin bin at all. Look, I don't know. A ridiculous call. What are your thoughts on the sin binnings of Pat Carrigan and Liam Martin? I just didn't think it was justified for that one. Jeremiah Nanai, now he had a performance for Queensland. He came into the game after sitting out a couple of Queensland training sessions during the week, but what a game he had. He was one of the busiest players on the field for Queensland anyway. He most tackles 46. So a magnificent effort from Jeremiah, especially, as I said, him coming under an injury cloud, missing out a few training sessions for Queensland during the week. So, look, a very interesting one in that second half. I think I'm not too sure if New South Wales, they thought they scored enough points, or Queensland stepped it up in their defence, but as I said, disappointing to see only 4 points scored by New South Wales, but it was enough to hold on. I thought Mitchell Moses, he controlled the game well, even in that second half when New South Wales weren't scoring points. He was directing traffic. He, as I said, he had the ball on a string with his kicking as well, and that is probably comments from mates as well during the game. Shout out to Scott Dyer. That is probably the best game he has ever played. This game was on a big stage, Origin, in front of 90,000 people at the MCG. A must win for New South Wales, and the way he played sounds like it could be the best ever game that he has played in rugby league, even in clubland as well, for the Eels and Tigers. Look, I think, that is a massive call, but look, that was one hell of a performance. And look, if he was there in game number one, then potentially New South Wales win that one. Not saying they would have, because they still would have probably had the send-off, but it would have been having Mitchell Moses in that side would have gone a long way to potentially winning that game one. So it could have been New South Wales winning the series last night, but they now have to go up to Brisbane, Suncorp Stadium, and on the 17th of July, and try and win the series up there in Queensland in front of 52,500 Queenslanders at Suncorp. Very tough, very difficult to do. Something that New South Wales hasn't done in a long time is win a series decider up in Queensland. As we all know, it is a cauldron. The Queensland crowd, they really get behind their team, and the players, they seem to step it up even further in Queensland. So, look, they even came out after game one and said they probably didn't play the best in game one. They still got the victory, but there was still a lot of things to work on. This game obviously was over after the first half, and they will be mostly disappointed about that and the way that they played last night as well. So, have they really played to their potential? Potentially, this is scary because, as I said, going up to Queensland to try and win the series is a massive, really hard task to do. And look, it's been a long time since New South Wales have done it. I'm not exactly sure how long that has been. I'm sure that stat will come out very soon anyway, or definitely before Origin 3, so I'll try and get that one for you. But look, to some team stats, and look, New South Wales had the possession 54% to 46%. And the good thing for New South Wales was their completion rate. 91% completion rate, 33 out of 36 sets, compared to Queensland's 78. And as we all know, to win rugby league games, and especially Origin games, you need the ball. So they were camped down in Queensland's 20-metre mark, I think about 13, 14 times, to Queensland's 1, I think, in the first half at some stage. So it just shows you how dominant they were with the ball and in that first half. But yeah, completion rates are really critical to winning any rugby league game, let alone State of Origin games. The kicking metres, 633 to New South Wales, 490 to Queensland. That just shows you the difference between the two kickers. New South Wales, Jerome Luai did a little bit of kicking. Mitchell Moses was obviously the main kicker for Queensland. DCE and Reece Walsh did some kicks as well, but 3 forced dropouts from New South Wales to Queensland's 1. That was a little bit of a difference as well as the tackles as well, which really, I guess, like in any game as well. And one alarming stat for the Queenslanders, they missed 54 tackles compared to New South Wales' 23. So that is a very concerning stat from the Queenslanders, something that they will have to improve on. And I dare say that most of those would have been in that first half. Look, 1 sin binnings each, 1 ruck infringement each, 9 penalties to 7. I think they were probably all a little bit justified, although Ashley Klein, as I said, with those sin binnings of Pat Carrigan and Liam Martin were a bit, how you going, I thought anyway, and they shouldn't have probably happened. So, look, a fairly even penalty stat there. To the player stats, as I said, Dylan Edwards, he was outstanding in his debut, scored a try, 203 run metres. He was involved in a lot of New South Wales' play. We all know that he should have been there in Game 1. He was picked for Game 1, but unfortunately that quad injury kept him out of Game 1. Again, another player who, if played in Game number 1, that result could have been a completely different result in Game 1, but we'll never know, will we? So a great debut for Dylan Edwards at fullback. And look, speaking of debuts, Connor Watson, he got 17 Connor Watson came off the interchange bench. 17 minutes he got in that second half. And pretty much, I think it was there was a tackle when he ran onto the field, and then I think he took the next run from dummy half. He got into dummy half, and then he just wanted to get involved in the action, and you can't blame him either. He just wanted to get in the action, have a run, get his first taste of Origin, and look, I thought he did pretty well for his 17 minutes, four runs, 35 metres, and that first run especially was probably his most effective, I think. But he had a pretty good debut for the time that he had on. Who else debuted? Dylan Edwards, as I said, outstanding. Scored that try and 22 runs for his 203 metres. So 1 try assist as well. So a very good debut from Dylan Edwards. Latrell Mitchell, obviously not a debutant, but his inclusion into game number 2 was a masterstroke. we all thought that he might have got picked anyway, with Joseph Suaalii not picked due to suspension. And look, I don't think Joseph will be back, unfortunately. I think New South Wales will have to go into game number 3 with this same team. Obviously, if injuries and suspensions in the NRL, if they occur, it'll be a different story. But if none of those happen, then I think New South Wales have to go into game 3 with this same lineup. And look, why wouldn't you? Because they got the job done in game 2, and the more time they play together, obviously the better. So Latrell Mitchell, as I said, scored a try, 9 runs for 86 metres. Did get that penalty for being on report for a high tackle, dangerous tackle. But I think his presence on the field, I guess, probably had Queensland a little bit worried as well. He is a big man, a big game player, and I think that, as I said before, that was a masterstroke having him back in the side. Potentially another player that could have been there for game number 1, although I'm not 100% correct. I think he may have ruled himself out of game number 1, I think, due to his form at the time. But anyway, if he was there in game 1, could have been a different story as well. Jake Trbojevic, he got 33 minutes this time instead of about 18 or so, 17, even less in game number 1. A lot of questions were being asked about why the captain only played that amount of time in game 1, but he had a pretty solid game for game number 2 and led from the front as well. So 15 tackles, only 1 missed tackle. So you know what you're going to get with Jake Trbojevic, a true leader. Reece Robson, he had a good game as well. Look, there probably wasn't one player to fault last night for New South Wales in this team. So Spencer Leniu as well, 26 minutes off the interchange bench, and look, he was in everything. I think started a bit of a get together between the two sides as well. But that's what you want in State of Origin. You want players standing up for other players, and you can't fight these days. You can't throw a punch, but you can certainly, I guess, grab them by the jumper and push them around a bit. But although Ashley Klein didn't want to see that, and look, no one really wants to see a push and shove, but it is Origin after all, and players are going to get heated. But again, another performance from him, which will see him play game number 3. I thought he potentially for game 1, I didn't pick him in my side, but he proved me wrong in game number 1. Certainly held his own in game number 2 as well, so he will probably be picked again for game number 3. For the Queensland side, well, look, there's not a lot of good reading on this Queensland side. Not a lot of good reading. Ben Hunt, he played 39 minutes in the game. I honestly did not know when he played those 39 minutes, because I must have missed something, but I did not hear his name called in commentary. As I said, I must have missed something as well, because he did. Actually, I think I do remember him doing attempting. I think it was nearly a 40-20. Yes, that's correct. He had 2 kicks in the game for 75 metres, but other than that, I very rarely heard his name in the commentary, so it was almost like he was on the field. I think I saw more of Harry Grant on the field than he was, and Harry Grant, he copped a bit of a knock to the head. It was a head clash with Pat Carrigan, I think it was, opened him right up, and the crowd went, oh, with a bit of blood on his face. Had to have the old headband tape up. The electrical tape came out on the bandage, old school style, and had to bandage him up with the headband. And he played 41 minutes. So He was certainly in the action there as well. Reece Walsh, he tried, but he wasn't effective at all. Valentine Holmes, I think he got caught out of position a few times, which led to New South Wales tries. I think they were going down the Tom Dearden and Valentine Holmes side. So it was very hard for Queensland to defuse that New South Wales side. I think that was Latrell Mitchell's side, which was very effective in game number 2. Daly Cherry Evans, he had a night he'd wish he'd forget. He was involved in a few tackles from the opposition, and as I said before, a little bit of frustration, I think, when Stephen Crichton did that grapple tackle on him. His kicking was okay, but not the best, so something he will want to improve on, that's for sure. Look, I can't really think of a player that was good for Queensland last night, and I think, look, they went into this game with the same team as game number 1. I think the same starting side as game number 1. I think they will again go into game number 3 with this same team. Obviously, as I said before, with injuries and suspensions prevailing, I guess they will go with the same team as game number 2 and 1. And as I said, they will be a different team up in Queensland. I don't know what it is, but it's just one of those things. They get up there and, as I said before, they get the crowd behind them, and they just seem to grow another leg, I guess. Or as Paul Gallen might say, grow another head. I don't know. But they are certainly a different side up there in Queensland. So, look, they'll want to forget about this game. Obviously, they'll do a review about it. Coaches Billy Slater, Josh Hannay, Nate Miles as well. They will review the game between now and the next Maroons camp and just try and work out what went wrong, how they can fix it, and then once they get into camp, they'll work on that one and try and get the job done in game number 3. As I said, game number 3 is on July 17. So about 3 weeks away, I think it is. So that one will be a sellout up there in Brisbane. Always is a sellout. It's probably been sold out for a long time now. So that will be 17th of July, 8:05 p.m. So Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. So if you're in Brisbane and you haven't got a ticket already, you better hurry up. But look, I've been to one Origin game in Queensland as a New South Wales supporter. It was a interesting affair up there. I wore my Blues jersey into the Caxton Street Hotel. I actually felt pretty comfortable up there, actually. I didn't. We hear all these stories of New South Wales fans in Queensland getting heckled and the like, but no, I found it okay. It was all right. I don't know what it's like these days. That was about 11 years ago, so it may have changed. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked there. Game number 3, as I said, 17th of July, 8:05 p.m, Suncorp Stadium. Cannot wait for that one. The series decider. Look, speaking of series deciders, tonight at 7:45 p.m. is the women's State of Origin decider between, obviously, the Maroons and the Sky Blues of New South Wales. The Sky Blues go into the game as favourites. They won Game 1 in Queensland at Suncorp Stadium. The Maroons won Game 2 at Newcastle. So, look, these sides are both pretty much evenly matched. They have, I think, both sides, New South Wales especially, I think they've got the same side for all 3 games. I don't think there's any changes to their team, so that is a good thing, and probably a very rare thing that a team can go 3 games, three the same team. For Queensland, I think they've had a few changes, so there is a change there. Chelsea Lenarduzzi comes onto the interchange bench. I don't think she played game 1 or 2. So there's a couple of changes there for Queensland. Look, even though New South Wales go into the game as favourites, it's the same thing as the men's. When a Queensland team plays in Queensland, they'll get that crowd support. It will be a sellout in Townsville. And it's great to see the women's game just expanding even more and getting more of profile, getting more support from fans, and it's just getting bigger and better. This is the first time in history that a women's State of Origin series is 3 games. Last year it was 2 games, and previous to that it was 1 game only. So it's great to see that is a 3-game series between these two sides, because after last year's result in Queensland, which the Sky Blues won at this venue, Queensland won the series on aggregate. So it is great to see that it is a 3-game series. So looking forward to watching this one tonight, 7:45 p.m. Game number 3 in the Women's State of Origin, Queensland Country Bank Stadium. I'm obviously going for New South Wales. I'd love to see them win the series after Queensland won it last year. I would love to see the Sky Blues raise that shield, that trophy, the shield I should say, in the Women's State of Origin. But it's going to be tough. Look, I think for Queensland, key players, Ali Brigginshaw, obviously the Lauren Brown, the hooker, she kicked the winning field goal in game number 2. So there's a couple of players for Queensland that obviously New South Wales, Tamika Upton as well at fullback, the Dally M Player of the Year. She'll be one to watch for the Sky Blues. For the Sky Blues, I think obviously they've got one of the strongest centre pairings in the NRLW, or in this State of Origin series anyway. Jessica Sergis and Isabel Kelly, who is the captain of New South Wales. But one player who has stood out in these 2 games is Yasmin Clydesdale from the Newcastle Knights as well. She may go on to get the player of the series. But there's a couple of players there to watch. Jamie Chapman, she scored that awesome try in game number 1. If you haven't seen it, go back on YouTube and check that one out. It is an absolute cracker of a try. One of the tries that's probably even better than what the men could score, to be honest. It is an awesome try off a kick return. I think it's about 80 odd metres, so don't give her any space out wide, otherwise she'll burn you, and she could potentially go on to score another length of the field try. But looking forward to this one. I'll leave you on that note. I will be going for New South Wales. Let's hope we can get the men's win last night and the women's win tonight. And hopefully we can both win the men's and women's series. So hopefully the women can win tonight, the New South Wales women, and then the men in 3 weeks' time. But I'm going for the Sky Blues tonight. Let's get it done. Let's get the job done. The whole state's behind you. Go the Sky Blues. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that review of game number 2 in the men's State of Origin.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave